right, the main event. Every day is improv. We are so excited to dive into this topic today. I get asked a lot, what should I say, right? I think one of our biggest stressors in this line of work is knowing just the right thing to say. And we put a lot of emphasis on that and we stress about it. So I think it's appropriate to recognize that some of the principles of improv are going to help us be able to be more comfortable in navigating a conversation because we're never going to know exactly what to say. But if we can do some preparation and apply some of these concepts, I think we can be a little more confident. We can be more authentic in our connecting with prospects and donors when we're sitting down with them. So let's move on to the next slide, please, Trish. I'm just going to go over the principles that we're going to be reviewing today, and then I'm going to allow our fabulous team to unpack each of these principles with the lens of fundraising. So, the key principles we're going to be talking about today from improvisation are yes and. We'll start with that one. The reminder to always be present will be a great focus for us. Make your partner look good. I love this one. Take bold risks, embrace failure as discovery. I think this is so huge. So many of us don't take those bold risks because we are afraid of rejection. But guess what? The more no's we get, the more opportunities we get to a yes, right? So embracing that failure as discovery is so key. And last but certainly not least, commit fully. So I'm going to hand it over to Mary to get us started with that yes and.
Yes, Marty. And yes, and is actually one of the main pillars that underlies all of improv. Now, I am not an expert in improv, but I know that I've watched Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV. And one of the things about Yes and is that it builds a mindset of openness and collaboration. Now, you'll hear us talking about teaming with your donors, partnering with volunteers, all of these sorts of things. Remember, fundraising is a collaboration at its heart. This perfectly translates into our work of discovery and cultivation with our donors. Yes and forces us to actively listen so that we can accept and build on what our partner that's on the solicitation with us or the donor that we're meeting with offers, rather than rejecting it or ignoring it or glossing over it and missing some big thing that they actually shared with us. If you listen closely, you can show donors that you care about their interests and that your organization has a clear vision for your project that aligns with their perspective. So they ask you a question and you answer with something like, yes, that's a great question. And we've designed our solution or our program to address and then go into sharing about your particular project. Next slide, please. The next thing that you've really got to do is to be present. Be where your boots are. Be in the moment. And that means not being in your head. And that can be really hard whenever we've maybe sat down and strategized, thought about the dollar amount that we're going to ask for, thought about the points that we want to make, thought about who's going to say what. And then after we make the ask, we're going to be silent and we're going to let it sit there. Like we've thought about all of these things. And then whenever it comes down to being with the donor, it's not that you throw that out the window. You keep that in your back pocket, but you've got to be present in the conversation that you are having with them right now. Getting distracted or getting too in your head, focused on your talking points, pulls you away from the donor. And I promise you, they can feel it. You've got to listen to what they're saying, but also listen to what they're not saying. If you ask a question and they kind of give you an answer that doesn't really address the question that you asked, that's an indication that they're not super into that topic and that you might want to redirect a little bit. But what you really want to do is to pay attention and notice the cues behind the words. So whenever we're talking about being present here, we're not just talking about, hearing the question. And I realize for some people, the nonverbals that go along with communication can be difficult to interpret. But catching the tone, the donor's energy, if they're hesitating, if their body language shows excitement, maybe they're leaning forward whenever you're talking about impact stories, follow that thread and build on it. Three things that you, oops, three things that you really want to pay attention to: distractions, cell phones, and even if your cell phone is put away, make sure that ringer is turned off. So, if you're meeting in an environment that can have some distractions, like a restaurant or a coffee shop, the fire truck is rolling by outside, pay attention to that and let it pass. But you can be prepared by taking your cell phone off the desk, putting it away, and before you do that, make sure that it's not going to pipe up and make any unwelcome noises while you're talking. If you're meeting online on a Zoom meeting or Microsoft Teams, make sure your camera's on. Even if their camera isn't on, it'll signal that you're really present. If it's a phone call, you're calling them on the phone to touch base about something, get yourself away from your computer. The best of us think we know that we can't multitask, and we have a tendency to accidentally get sucked into multitasking, talking on the phone, and suddenly a notification pops up from Slack or Microsoft Teams on your computer, and then you're talking to the donor and you're trying to answer that Microsoft Teams message really, really quick. They can tell. Another thing, and this comes from anybody who came up through having answering machines, if you're leaving a voicemail, speak with a smile. People can hear that smile, and it's engaging. And now I'll pass it on to Jenna.
Thank you so much, Mary. Next, we're going to talk about making your partner look good. This is especially important when you are in a group ask or solicitation meeting. We always talk about the fact that fundraising is not a solo sport. We like to build a team around the solicitation. So we're looking for those team members, those subject matter experts that can help as cultivators, those CEOs or executive directors that we're going to bring in to help be the closer in a solicitation. Assuming that you are in a team setting, we want to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Even the very best improv stars go through rehearsal. Saturday Night Live, right? They don't just go out on stage cold. There are a lot of things that they're winging, but they have rehearsed, they have practiced, they have crafted perfect lines before the cameras turn on Saturday night. We need to do the same. I know that it feels silly or maybe awkward to ask your CEO or board member to rehearse the meeting with you, but I assure you that it is going to make everyone more comfortable. No matter how many times your hospital president has been in one of these conversations, there's really nothing worse than going into that high stakes ask meeting and you think they're going to make the ask and they think you're going to make the ask, and nobody really knows whose line it is anyway, right? We want to be sure that we are supporting the others in the conversation. If it's just you and the prospect, this rule still applies. You want to make your donor look good in the meeting. You want to make sure that you're present, as Mary talked about, and you want to make sure that you are engaged, you're prepared, that everyone in the conversation is valued. I think about often when you have a meeting with a couple, as one fundraiser or staff member sitting across the table from a spouse couple where maybe one member of the couple has a different opinion about their philanthropic gift or has more questions than the other person in the relationship. It can be hard to engage two-on-one and make sure that everyone feels like they're valued in that conversation. Make sure that both husband and wife feel like they are part of this decision or part of this philanthropic relationship. Those are dynamics that you have to navigate. Again, I think that's a good situation to bring a partner with you for the ask, so that you can sort of divide and conquer during the conversations as needed. When you are involving others from your organization, you want to give your leadership a donor overview document. We've been supporting our clients lately by helping them prepare sort of a board member toolkit. Right? Some key talking points about our campaign or the ask that we're going to be teeing up. Making sure that your leadership or your colleagues in the ask know a little bit about the donor's giving history, some quick facts, some insight on the strategy that you have in mind. Talking through that information is all a key part of getting your team ready, and making sure that everyone looks good in the moment with the donor. Again, you may have some background knowledge on this prospect. That you need to share in advance so that your partner doesn't accidentally step into any landmines, right? If there are topics to avoid or areas of the campaign that you know this prospect is not interested in or might find uncomfortable, make sure that your teammates know that in advance, right? Again, making your partner look good, whether that's the donor that you're visiting with or your team members that are part of your ask and solicitation team, is a very important role. I often, when you're doing a tour of your site, for example, run through the tour in advance. I know you walk through your space every single day on the way to your office. You know where the trash cans are, you know where the dirt piles up, but you ignore it. So walk through it with your team members that are going to be on the tour with you. Talk through the key points that you might highlight as you're walking through the space. Make sure that the trash cans and dirt piles are out of the way so that your donor doesn't run into the ugly stuff, right? And tee up everyone for the best possible presentation and experience as they get a peek behind the curtain at your organization. Let's go to the next slide. So this is my absolute favorite. Take bold risks. We know that sometimes our work is uncomfortable. Sometimes we're talking about planned gifts, and that can be very, very awkward at times. Talking to people about their income or their financial situations, making an ask of a donor that you've had a long relationship with can sometimes feel like asking your friend for money, right? And in reality, we are not making a personal request. We are speaking on behalf of our clients, on behalf of our organization, on behalf of our mission. We are giving our donors an opportunity to do something that they probably already wanted to do. They just didn't quite know how to go about it. So it's okay for us to be bold and to engage in this conversation with some courage, right? We are the expert in the philanthropic vehicles that can benefit our mission and the clients that we serve. And so we are presenting an opportunity to our donor. It's okay to ask them questions, to navigate those conversations with curiosity so that you can get to the root of their passions, so that you can really present them with the best possible gift. It is understood based on most of our titles, right? What our job is. If we've done our cultivation properly, if we've built a relationship with this prospect, they should not be surprised. In most cases, they are expecting us to bring an ask to them. Most of the time, we've asked permission to present a proposal, right? And so they're ready. They're waiting to talk about your campaign. They've heard about the work that you're doing. They want to know how they can help. Don't make them beg for it. Don't make them wait until the very end of the meal after dessert has been served to begin discussing the giving opportunity, right? Get it out in the open so that you can have a genuine conversation about their role in your organization's growth. Be genuine with your language. It's okay to tell them, honestly, this is really hard work, but it's also really meaningful work. I love what I get to do because our organization is changing the world in this way, right? We're changing lives through this mission. We want to make sure that our donors understand that their gift is not just a line in our budget. We want to make sure our donors know that their meaningful contribution changes outcomes for our clients. Um, Again, be clear. Ask them if they would be opposed to a custom proposal that aligns the interests you've discussed today with the current funding priorities at your organization. Be bold, be transparent, and don't be afraid to just ask those big questions. And now I'll hand it over to Jake.
All right. Thank you so much. So one of the things that we know is going to happen if you do this process and you're in this industry and you have this career long enough is you're going to get turned down. And we have this like immense fear of getting told no when we ask for money. And we do so much prep and training and procrastination and deciding not to ask because you're like, well, it's been going well with this donor. I've kind of developed a good relationship. We have good rapport. If I ask them for money, that's it. If I just take a little more time and get them to know, but we just got to get the right timing. They haven't sold their business yet. And the reality is the longer that you wait in the long run, the more money you're going to leave on the table. These people are hoping and wanting to engage. As Jenna pointed out, you're not going to sneak up on these people. If the director of development for your college is talking to you, what do you think the conversation is about? They know it's about, it's about. Everybody's fine with this. The example that I give a lot is we work really hard oftentimes to be 3-0. I want to ask 3 donors and I want to get 3 yeses. Whereas I always say, I'd rather be 9-12. Let me get turned down 12 times for gifts, but I'm just going to start taking more shots. No one is ever offended that you think they have money or that they are potentially generous or they're excited about this. You're going to get told no a lot. And it's not just like, no, and I hate you. It's like, no, because here's why. And you can just move along. It's not the end of the world. This is a natural human reaction. So I do want to clarify that it is totally okay to not want to be told no. We have this kind of primal desire to be accepted by others and for others to say yes to us. That's why it's difficult to be in sales. That's why it's difficult to ask your crush out on a date. It's because you just don't want to have that failure piece. So just know that these mistakes that you make, and a mistake might be you brought the wrong gift proposal. You thought they were excited about this one service line or this one part of your mission. And you're like, we're going to dial in on this. And then you start talking, and they're like, oh, I don't want to support that at all. And you're like, I've ruined it. And now they're not going to give ever. It's like, well, probably not. This is probably an opportunity to learn more about them, saying, okay, great. Well, we have a lot of stuff. Tell me about some of the stuff that you're more interested in, or what are some of the service lines that you feel like might be more impactful or that you might want to direct your philanthropic dollars. That's an easy mistake to make. You're going to make it. And if you're trying to reduce the number of at-bats so that you don't ever make these mistakes, you're probably asking too few people for money very consistently. If a donor declines your gift request, it is just a learning experience either about the donor themselves, of like, I didn't nail it with that person, or about the process and the asking in general. You can say, this was a great way to refine my message, to refine the things I'm talking about, to improve my personal skills as a fundraiser, or just wrong person, wrong time, wrong timing. We can always try to guess about what's going to be the right time for a donor. We're going to get it wrong a lot. So a lot of these no's that we get just tend to be not right nows and just like, this isn't the best fit. Like this is a hyper specific ask towards a really specific program in this month of their life. You don't know what's going on in their life right now, which relates to their philanthropy. As Jared pointed out in the beginning, like this might be a really big quarter for a lot of nonprofits. Like we know that we're going to have a big Q4 in terms of revenue. There's going to be a lot of wealthy people who need and want to offload some money over October, November, December. So you could get yeses that you would not otherwise get. And conversely, maybe you ask in February and they're a little bit gun shy. And it's not because it was the wrong project or the wrong donor. It was just the wrong timing. One thing that we want to point out is occasionally, even if you've been doing this a long time and you have good answers to the questions, if a donor stumps you with a question, don't make something up. And the tendency is like, oh my gosh, it's like a test. And if I don't know the answers to the test, I'm not going to get the gift. It's way, way better to be honest and transparent because it does a couple of things. First is if you don't know and you just admit you don't know, it's like, man, wow, Jenna, that's a really great question. That really stumped me. I haven't gotten that one before. But you know what I can do is I can go back to the office and I can get that for you exactly. What that does is when you do have a question and you are able to answer it, they trust that you're being honest because they're like, well, if he didn't know, he'd say so. Because I asked him that other question a minute ago and he said he didn't know. So it just kind of reinforces that trust. And the other thing is that you don't have to have this dishonest relationship. Again, people ask us, me, the team all the time, like, just give me the magic words. How do I talk someone into giving? It's like, you're not going to talk someone into giving. Your job is to present opportunities for people to partner with your organization. And there's words and things you can say. And we have kind of, fundraising scripts that we teach and all of that. And it's useful. But what's more useful is just putting that opportunity in front of more people, and that allows you to have more total at-bats. And just law of volumes, you will get more support that way. If you don't know the answers to the questions, if they stump you, if they turn you down, these are all fine things. And if you're doing enough volume, this is going to happen to you a lot. We say that we have a generally 1 in 3 ratio. The average fundraiser will have, for every ask they make, a yes, a maybe, or a not right now, or maybe a different amount, and then a no. Oh, balloons. Okay, great. Apparently if I do this, I get balloons. So just know that that's kind of the soft ratio. Maybe you're a little better than that, maybe a little worse, but if you do enough, it kind of flattens out to be about 1 in 3, which is totally fine. You build that in and you make sure that you just go forth knowing that it's going to be okay with that ratio. Next slide. The next thing that we'll talk about is just to commit fully. Again, we often pursue perfection. And if you're a high achieving individual or you care dearly about the organization that you're supporting, or it's a cause that's very dear to your heart, you want to be perfect. You're like, I don't want to get out there until my pitch is perfect. I don't want to make an ask unless it's the right time, it's the right donor. And it's just going to have to be imperfect. This is kind of a messy, muddy process. And if you're craving that perfection, that structure where it all is just like this nice little set of steps and we have our nice little list of donors, it's just not going to be that. Even at the top level, the programs that do this the absolute best are doing it with confidence and authenticity. So just having enthusiasm, things that Mary talked about, of like just smiling, and even if you're not on camera, smiling and making sure that you just have this kind of exuberance and enthusiasm and optimism for the future about your organization, and just being authentic about your why and why this mission is important to you. You could have chosen a number of nonprofits to work for or to volunteer with or to give to, but you chose this one. Why did you choose this one? Just tell them about it. And it kind of naturally will bring this kind of brightness to what you're doing. That is so much more effective than trying to be like, okay, I'm going to nail the script. I'm going to get it down to the word. I'm going to practice it in the mirror. I'm going to practice it with my CEO. It's like, you can do those things too. If that gives you confidence, that's fine. But being authentic and confident and optimistic goes way, way further. And showing up wholeheartedly is very meaningful. You don't have to be an extrovert to do this well. You can just have just interpersonal conversations. It can be quiet and it can be calm, and you can be a good listener. We always try to say, in a fundraising ask, you want to listen about the same amount that you talk. So you want to be about 50-50 in the conversation. Generally, the tendency is to go in there and pitch. You're like, I'm going to talk about my organization for 10 minutes, and they're just going to be blown away. Ask them a lot of questions about their giving. If they've given a small gift in the past, say, hey, what kind of impact did you hope that gift had? Or what are some of your philanthropic goals for this year? Or what are some of the things that we can do to make you feel supported as a donor? What kind of information do you like to hear? In what medium do you want to hear from us? All these things just kind of showing up in this very human way means way more than kind of, okay, I'm just going to go for volume, or I'm going to get as many people as possible. We're going to make it transactional. And the thing to remember about all of this, that no matter how many years that you do this, or no many hundreds or thousands of asks that you make, it's going to be uncomfortable from time to time. It's a tricky conversation, and you kind of get better at it. The discomfort, we like to say, kind of stays in this ring, and then our skills and experience grow around it. But the discomfort stays the same size. It's the same discomfort as before. That doesn't shrink. We just kind of grow around it and kind of build out from there. And it gives us that confidence. So just know that this is never going to be like a totally fun and totally exciting process. You'll have times of that, you'll have times of disappointment, and just don't let any of it create that fear such that you just reduce your volume or stop entirely. It's a numbers game, it's a volume game, and if you are confident and enthusiastic across that, easier said than done, we know that you'll be ultimately successful from there. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michaela.
Thanks, Jake. I'm excited that I get to talk about this next piece of the puzzle here, managing your inner critic. Jake mentioned that a lot of fundraisers, we're high performers. We want to do well because we care about the organization that we're serving, or we ourselves want to see success. But I encourage you in this process, when you're implementing improv strategies into your work, be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like you would your best friend. We often think when nerves start creeping in, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? Or what if I sequence this poorly and it just negatively impacts the whole ask? You're fine. Just take a deep breath. Remind yourself that you get to improv on this, right? Like if you say something it's not completely clear, guess what? You have the chance to go back. It's not a performance. It is not just the most perfect pitch that you're putting out there. It's a conversation with the donor that you're having. The goal in these conversations is to really learn more, be curious, get that person to talk about what they want to accomplish. My colleagues have been saying the same thing throughout this presentation. But what that really does is it flips where the focus is at. The focus isn't on you as the fundraiser, it's on the donor. It's about getting them to talk about what they would like to see. And you're going to have moments where you're a little uncomfortable. That's okay. Just acknowledge that going in, and you have an opportunity before a meeting to prep yourself. Maybe come up with a few questions, open-ended questions that you can fall back on when you start feeling uncomfy. One that my colleague Jenna has presented as a really great one is, what first drew you to this cause? I've even used the one, just tell me about yourself. Whatever they put out there is something they're proud about or something that they use to define who they are. And when you're going through this process, just remember, give yourself grace, and that there really are no mistakes, only gifts that come from implementing these strategies. So next slide, please. With that, we went through a bunch of strategies, and we'd like to talk about any of them in further detail. Any questions from this group or comments?
Is it too early to throw you an improv scenario? We'll just make you practice right now.
Are you talking to me, Jen?
I'll take volunteers. No.
Right. Well, if you do have questions, if we could go to the next slide, either about this presentation or something very specific for your organization or what you would like to learn more about, there's a member of our team that would love to talk to you and help kind of navigate that question alongside you. Obviously,